All right, we feeling ready?
I think we're ready to rock and roll. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our product peek here at Braincube, and happy Thursday. Happy to have you with us today. We'll be walking you through a quick bite-sized overview of Braincube with your host here, Kurt Peterson, a sales engineer here at Braincube. So with that, Kurt, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. So, as with all of our product peaks, what our goal for today is to give you a quick taste, a teaser of the platform in its very many different aspects, so that you can kind of get a better idea for what we show and then possibly go deeper into it in the future. So, really quickly, what I want to do is introduce Braincube at a high level. So, Braincube was founded by engineers and plant managers in France about 15 years ago who were frustrated with how their plant was running and they were frustrated with the tools that they were using and they weren't able to solve the problems that they wanted to solve. So, in pursuit of that, they not only ended up solving their problems, but 15 years later, we're solving a lot of people's different problems across the globe in a lot of different areas. So, Braincube works with manufacturing companies who have high degrees of process complexity. So we work really well in paper and pulp, in the metals industries, in food and beverage, in building materials, and so on and so forth. Really, it goes on from there. But what we really stand by is that Braincube is our vision is our mission is to bring out operational excellence in manufacturing companies by allowing them to use their own data to better refine it into information that can give them savings. And at the end of the day, it's a cash machine, right? Like some of our customers call us the money maker because the ROI on the insights derived from our analytical tools is so powerful. So how do we do that, right? So we really, it's the the answer is, Braincube is a continuous operational improvement tool which touches a lot of different aspects within the factory. However, it's very easy to understand that we help manufacturing companies visualize their variance, help bring it within to stable or consistent levels, and then tighten up our precision and really get to optimum operating parameters, right? That's going from hitting the same spot on the dartboard every time to hitting the bullseye on the dartboard every time. So that's a process that, continues on for a lot of different companies at a lot of different levels, but that's essentially what Braincube does is offers tools to help companies visualize, stabilize, and then optimize their production. So within that, what we're going to give the product peek today is on that last bullet. So that optimized piece. And what we're going to show is the Braincube Advanced Analytics module, which is really how we uncover some of the most powerful, valuable savings for our customers. Um, let's talk about a real life use case. So I don't know if you've had the pleasure to be to a paper mill before. Before I came to work at Braincube, had not yet. But paper is kind of maybe a little bit less interesting today because we're in a digital age and everybody's talking about moving beyond paper. But the paper manufacturing process, to me, is one of the most fascinating and fiendishly difficult ones. So, you've got these colossal machines that have a lot of upstream and downstream dependencies. How do you control for all of that? There's a lot of variables. It's really impossible for a single human to be able to understand these systems. So Braincube helps a lot of paper companies across the world optimize their production. And how do we do that? Because Braincube is built on the digital twin, which is a rich data foundation which helps align material flow to the flow of information so that operators and engineers can conceptualize it and understand it better. Because we're built on the digital twin, what Braincube is able to do is able to, genealogically locate events, quality results, operating conditions, and with a high degree of empirical evidence, tie those conditions on the output to the correlating inputs. And that's essentially what our analytical tool does very, very well, is be able to identify how you ran in the past, what your golden batches were, and gives you prescriptive instructions for how to do that in the future. So, without any further ado, let's actually jump kind of into the tool. So, Now that I'm in the Braincube charting application, I'm going to skip a couple of steps, but still give you enough of an understanding for what this is to help locate us. So what I'm plotting here is a couple of variables that I'm interested in. And for paper companies, you can look at paper breaks, you can look at things like tensile strength or the brightness of a paper. For this example, what I'm going to do, just because it's a little bit more simple, is take a look at the NOx output, so my emissions coming off of my boiler house within my chemical loop in the paper mill. So what I want to do with NOx is keep it within, environmental controls, and so I want to minimize my NOx. But that's a tough thing because, the best way to minimize NOx would be to turn off the boiler, right? If you plug that into a predictive model, that might be what the AI tells you. But we know that that will not really work. So we need to be a little bit more intelligent about how we apply this. So I've already gone in, I've selected a time period, I've plotted my trends. I might have thrown up a couple things like the natural process limits and a Q sum to better understand where my areas are. And from this trending tool, I'm going to directly initiate an analysis. So I've already identified that this is my golden run, or this is my opportunity where I can improve. So I want to understand, why did I perform so well within this? Why was my NOx falling within these parameters that I want? So from the charting app directly, I'm going to kick off an analysis. So the advanced analytics module within Braincube relies on a couple of proprietary, both algorithmic and machine learning tools that allow us to really uncover hidden relationships. And because we're built on that digital twin, it gets very powerful very quickly. The first thing I'm just going to click through really, really fast is setting up my analysis. So I know I'm looking at NOx, that's going to be my objective. I've already kind of filtered for the time period that I want. This is all inherited from the steps I did before. So designing my analysis comes very easy, excuse me. If I wanted to apply filters, so say if I only wanted to look at uh, the period when other variables, say my ratio of steam and gas is underneath a certain metric, I can do that. If I only wanted to include certain product codes, I could also do that. Again, this is reaching back into the digital twin and getting super accurate and eliminating a lot of that data wrangling. I can also do events. So if I wanted to, eliminate for downtime periods or other periods that I knew would mess up my data or are dirty data periods, I can exclude those very easily. And now I get to kind of define my objectives. So Braincube is already telling me based off of this kind of pattern where my distribution of NOx is falling. And I'm going to say I want to at least get to my median value as part of this analysis. So I want to kind of divide my population to good and bad points. That's going to help me understand what are the impacting variables that I can control that affect this. So I've got my bad values, which I want to eliminate now, my good values, which I want to keep. And now I get to decide which input variables I do this study on. Again, because we're built on that rich digital twin data, I can look at all of these, right? All of the thousands of different calculated and measured variables that are in the digital twin. I can just select them all and run them. So let's go ahead and save this analysis and pull it up. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is Braincube's cross rank. So remember, I've labeled what my analysis variable is. I've labeled my objective, so I want to minimize the NOx output. And what my cross rank list is going to give me is a generated ranked valued list on what input variables in the digital twin correspond to minimizing the output variable of NOx. And what our customers will really find on this is that they will know some of them right off the bat, right? Like it'll be very obvious to anybody who spent any time on this process that maybe the first couple variables are very highly correlated. That's totally normal. However, what this cross rank really does is it takes away the experiential bias that might be present in a lot of different processes. So if I expected to see maybe some input that's absent, or if I am surprised by seeing, maybe this moving average value so high up in this cross rank, that's the real power here. So we're moving from an experiential view to an empirical one. We had a customer who had, 40 years of established wisdom. You needed to do this, you needed to slow down your line in order to keep your quality high at nighttime, right? Because the humidity changes and the temperature changes. What CrossRank was able to prove for them empirically was like, nope, temperature range is not actually a factor for this, or line speed rather, excuse me. So because of that, they were able to speed up their line, and CrossRank was what told them that. So right off the bat, built on the digital twin, what we're able to show you is what are the most impactful input variables if I want to control for Knox. The other part now is we get to, there's no value to any sort of smart analysis unless we are generating some actionable insights that get to the plant floor and can be used there. So the next step, once we've kind of done some looking at the data, is to create a rule set that will be able to be published to the operator so that they can actually follow it, right? So you can actually get some return from your work. So I'm in the rule editor part of the analytics module. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this drag down, and what you're going to see here is exactly the same thing that was on the last screen. This is the cross-ranked variables, but now I can start putting them into my rule set. So I'm going to start selecting some of the important ones. And what you're going to see here is that Braincube is telling me a couple of things as I add these rules. So the first thing is once I select a variable, it's going to give me a range. And this range has already been identified by Braincube as the optimal range. If I want to achieve a minimization of Knox, here's some values that we're suggesting. Now, these are just suggestions. Obviously, the operators will need to validate these to make sure they're legitimate. But what Braincube is allowing you to do then is kind of play some what if scenarios. So let's go ahead and remove this one real quick and start at the beginning. So without any rules on any variables, I'm at a presence of 100%, meaning that for my analysis, I obeyed all of the rules, and that's because I don't have any rules, right? If I do add a rule, so if I add the furnace temperature here with a specific range that Braincube recommended, what Braincube is also telling me is that I only ran there 51% of the time. So I only obeyed this rule 51% of the analysis's time. And I also got this improvement to my goal, right? So this reduction essentially of NOx gases. And the great thing is this can be multivariate. So I can go back and I can add another temperature value, maybe from a different part of the process. Let's just go ahead and throw another one in there. The exhaust pressure is another good one. In real world situations, what you would do is you would have as many variables as are controllable and as you can feasibly look at affecting. So again, what Braincube's given me is the ranges where I need to operate, the interactions between those, and then what percentage improvement each individual kind of variable is giving to my overall goal here. Now that I've added a couple in here, I can see I only ran this way 30% of the time, and I got, some pretty significant improvement. What this graph is showing me is the blue line is where I actually ran, and the green line is where I would have run had I followed the rule set 100% of the time. So the way to interpret this is the gap between the blue line and the green line is loss. That is, NOx that I put out into the system that I didn't need to. If I was obeying the rule set, which I've proved we can do, and Braincube, knows it's possible, I would have had all those gains, right? So this is, visualizing for you very clearly what went wrong and what you can improve in your process. So the last part of it, you can also add Space Explorer is allowing us to understand some of the risks maybe in some of the other variables. So I've got these ranges, Braincube told me about them. I think that's great. But how does this affect another part of the process? Because if I crank up my furnace temperature, that might affect, say, my natural gas flow. So let's go ahead and put the natural gas flow into the Space Explorer where I can see, okay, it's got a risk value of 14. It's my presence is high. So okay, so actually, these ranges I can actually confirm they don't affect the natural gas flow pretty much. I think that they're a good rule set. So at the end of the day, what I can do with this rule editor is package these up and then give them to the operators to tell them, hey, here's your ranges. If you just stay here, we're going to minimize our NOx. We're going to do much better than we did last month. We can continue to continuously improve. But the big thing that Braincube did was break down some of the experiential or unknown barriers to data insight that I had and told me with certainty where I need to run, where I have run with success, and what is achievable to attain my goal. At the end of the day, that's what we're about, and that's what the analytics module is about, is optimizing production at many different levels of the factory. So what you can expect from a lot of customer aspects, let's go back to that paper customer. 6 months, or actually, no, excuse me, it was 9 months. 9 months after implementing the Braincube's digital twin, what we were able to prove is that we were able to, in this case, optimize for paper breaks and chemical usage. So we were able to minimize their chemical usage. That saved them a ton of money just in the first couple of months. They also were able to reduce the amount of paper breaks that they were seeing within the plant floor. So because they were able to look at their hidden opportunities with the digital twin, they were able to first stabilize and then optimize their production, which saved them a ton of money, saved their people a ton of headache, made them a lot more reliable and consistent at the end of the day. So that's what I had to give a peek on today. Danielle, are there any questions from the audience?
No questions today, but I just wanted to give like one closing remark before we wrap up. I think what we just looked at really just reinforces our mission here at Braincube to make data more available both for machines and people. I think that was a really big takeaway in the presentation so that you can make better decisions through those insights. And I think we also see a clear advancement within our customers and the need to understand how. Um, how do we get to that point of large scale value outtake? And again, I think what we just looked at is a step in that direction. And at Braincube, I think, we've been in a way like obsessing over these types of things for over a decade and have made large leaps forward, both on the technology side, which you just saw, but also really guiding our customers on their operational processes, how to think about visualization, stabilization, and optimization, and then how to successfully execute a digitalization strategy at scale. So if you're interested in learning more, have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We'll also be having another product peek in 2 weeks on Thursday, March 14th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And just wanted to thank you, Kurt, for the overview today of Braincube and our guests that joined us today. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and week, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Danielle. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Kurt.